Alright, so in this video I'm setting the timing on a 75 horsepower Mercury. I had to do a power head swap. He blew the top cylinder, the wrist pins, blew and knocked a hole in the intake, so I replaced that. And when you're doing a timing, you can do it a couple different ways. Well, to say, basically, I had the lower unit removed on this engine because I was doing a power head swap, so it makes it a little easier. And I removed all the spark plugs, so when you turn the engine over with your starter, you know, it'll move for your timing. Is a mechanical electrical deal on these engines. Electrical with the stator trigger, you know, it's sending the pulse to the spark plugs, to your coils, and high impedance spark. So the first thing that I do is I disconnect the throttle cable, and you can do it, like I said, with the lower unit on, but in my case I just didn't have it connected. And you want to set your timing pointer, you want to make sure that it's exactly at what Mercury specs are, which is 0.464 inches before top dead center, and is where the pointer should be. I guess, I don't know, that it's a little vague on, is that absolute? It's not absolute top dead center, that would be 0, but 464 is what Mercury says to set the timing pointer at. So to do that, you have to install a dial indicator. There's two ways to do this. You can get the Mercury tool. I think Merc's son has a good video on this where he uses the Mercury tool. You put it in a spark plug, and it stops on the piston. Anyway, I don't have one of those. They're not as common, and you have to buy the part. You can get a dial indicator, usually at Harbor Freight, any auto parts place. Put the dial indicator into your number 1 spark plug, because that's where your timing base is starting from. And so on your dial indicator, you've got 2 different pointers, like a dial on a clock, right? One is going to be in inches, which is a smaller one, and then the larger pointer is in thousandths of inches. So you stick it in there, lock it down, and then you want to rotate your flywheel clockwise until, you know, you get to, basically you watch your thousandths pointer until it stops. And then if you keep going, it's going to go backwards, right? So you're just going to rock it back and forth either direction until you find 0, or you find where the pointer stops. And then you're going to adjust your dial indicator so that mark is 0. You know, you're going to, because you can rotate the dial indicator till it's at 0, right? When it's at 0, then you can take the flywheel, do counterclockwise until you find 0.464 inches on the dial indicator. And then if you look on your flywheel, there's going to be a 0.464 mark. If you don't have that mark, then you need to make a mark on your flywheel, right? And then adjust your pointer so that it lines up with the 0.464 mark. And the reason you do that is because if you're off, you know, either retard or advance, you know, when you do the timing light, you know, you could be off a degree or 2. So you want to, that's really important to have that lined up exactly with what Mercury says, 0.464. All right, so now that you have that, the mechanical part is where your carburetors are going to be opening. So you have 2 points. There's a primary pickup and a secondary pickup. The primary pickup is where it just starts to move the butterflies. You want to make sure both butterflies, or if you have 3 carburetors, all 3 of them have to be in sync, exactly perfect. And then we're going to move those carburetors with our throttle lever until we watch and make sure that they all line up. All right, so that's that. So we know that the carburetors are in sync, they're lining up, they're going all the way open at wide open throttle. You can do this with the throttle connected, because you have adjustment nuts for both your spark advance and then your, which they call like spark stop. So it's stopping at 28 degrees. That's your secondary pickup, right? You're going to stop that right there. And then at idle, it's going to be firing at 4 degrees on this engine. Some of the other ones are 8. You just need to look at your chart, find out exactly where you're supposed to fire at. So at 4 degrees at idle, and it'll say, 400 RPMs, 500 RPMs, wherever the book says, that's where they should idle at. Then what we want to do is get our timing porter, put it on the induction side of the pointer. We want to put it on the number 1 spark plug. And in this engine, it's really difficult to get our hot lead to the hot side of the solenoid, which is how my timing light reads RPMs. And I would connect my negative to the negative, either the terminal of the battery or negative on the engine, and it would show me RPMs. I didn't need to do that on this engine. I'm pretty good at telling about where it should be idling at. So before you fire the engine over, I run it out of fuel. Just completely run it out of fuel so that it doesn't fire off. We're going to remove the spark plugs because it's going to make it easier for you to turn the engine over. And then in the video, you'll see where I have 5 pieces of wire actually. 4 of them we're just going to put inside the spark plugs, and we're going to connect them all with a butt connector, or not a butt connector, forget what they call them. And then one of the leads will go to ground, and that's just to protect from you burning out your coils. I don't recommend just having a spark plug and have them up against the housing sparking, because if you do have any fuel anywhere, it could ignite. Just be real careful with that. But if you do the wire methodology, was really simple to do. Remove your spark plugs, and then the motor will rotate really easy. So once we have that, and you're going to turn the engine over, and I like to do and know that my carburetors are completely wide open throttle, and set our secondary pickup, which is going to be 28 degrees before top dead center. I'm going to make a mark on my flywheel if it's not easy to read with like a white pen. Or you could use white out, something, just so that when you shoot your light you can see it easy. I'm going to line it up with that 28 degrees, and then whenever I go back to idle position, which is your primary pickup, usually that lands right at the where you should have, which is 4 degrees. If not, there's another adjustment on your throttle, and you're going to adjust that. Once that all lines up, I'm going to connect my throttle back. I'm going to put it to wide open throttle, check my carburetors to make sure that they're completely wide open. If I have to adjust the cable to make sure that that's correct. That's what I'll do. I'll check it again with the timing light. Now, if it's in full throttle gear, you know, you have to either disconnect your neutral safety switch. You know, so that's why my method. Well, that's why I do it the way I do it, because if you're using the remote, then it's going to kill any fire. So, because it's not in neutral when you're trying to turn the key. But if you have like so I have a remote switch. So if the key is on and the throttle's in the forward position, I can turn my key back on the engine on the remote. I still have fire. If you don't have that remote, then you really need to do it the way I'm talking about, and just have it in neutral with the key on, right? Throttle disconnected. Do your timing. Connect the throttle cable back. Then you don't have to worry about the remote, the neutral safety switch. But you do have to have a remote switch to turn the engine over. So you're going to turn it over, you're going to set your marks, you put your throttle back on, put it into wide open throttle, make sure your carburetors are completely wide open, put it back in neutral, check your carburetors to make sure that they're lightly, you know, just touching where the butterflies will start to open, and then that's your primary pickup. And then it should time out correctly. It may take a few times to do this if you've never done it, but it's really not that hard to do. And you know, like I said, you can do it with the lower unit on, lower unit off, but if you take those spark plugs out, it does help a lot. Otherwise, you got compression building up in the engine. And then when you're done, you just hook it all back together, your fuel, everything, and fire it up. Listen to your motor, and it should sound good. You may have to adjust your carburetor idle screws just slightly, just to make sure that it, and you can usually tune that by ear on these 2 cycles, and that's the best information I can give you on setting that. And this works for most of the Mercuries, you know, 2 cycle motors with a trigger. Alright, so one thing about doing your timing, and I got the lower unit off, just checking primary and secondary pickup, is spray a little bit of WD-40, came from a tip by my buddy Dan. Put it in there, he says it'll actually run on this, versus put like Marvel Mystery Oil, because then you're going to have a lot of oil in there that you're going to have to get rid of. And so he says this is a lot better. Spray a little of this in there, put your plugs in, and it'll lubricate the rings, and also, I mean, it'll run on it at startup. Alright, so I'll get ready to set my timing pointer. It's adjustable, so I'm going to use a dial indicator. Just kind of put this in here in your top cylinder, and then I'll lock it. So now it's locked, and I'm locked here, and then I'm just going to watch that as I turn this. This is our timing pointer, and you know, I don't move side to side or whatever, so just need to adjust that. We're going to try to get to our top dead center. I'll watch that. So I move this forward. Too much. Still going. Seems to be about right there. Alright, so then we're just gonna zero this out. It's 464, so it's actually gonna go this way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 4. We gotta count these. So we gotta go quarter ways. Right, so if you look at, there's 6, and then 1, 2, 3. So we gotta go, see that 6? So that's our 4. And then we gotta go another 640. So if we look, we're like dead on. It's like now I can tighten this up and call that good. So hopefully it makes sense. Okay, I'm getting ready to set the time. So I've got this little 4 of these wires, and I just got it jammed in all the spark plugs. I've got just a wing nut. Hopefully you can see. Then I put them all together, and then this wire goes over and hits ground. Then I've got my timing light hooked up to this guy and to the battery. I don't need to see RPMs. If I needed RPMs, I'd have to go off of here and here and there. Got my remote switch. I'll have to go up on the boat and turn it to the on position, and then I'm gonna turn it over. I don't know how much of this I can film, so what we're looking to do is check primary, secondary pickup. So I verified. First, you want to verify that your carburetors are in sync, butterflies are open at exactly the same time, and then at wide open throttle, which is like this is wide open throttle. Alright, the spark plugs should be the carburetor should have their butterflies wide open. So then I'm just going to turn the engine over. I just want to check and make sure that we don't go beyond 28 degrees. And I've got a pin that I've got to mark this. So there's 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. So like on there, I'm going to make a white mark. So that's what it should be at wide open throttle. And then we should be about 4 degrees before top dead center. At idle. So that would be like right here. So first I'm going to check wide open throttle, see how far it is. And then really this is your spark, that's where it's going to stop. So you can see it doesn't move this. So right here is our first adjustment. We get that right at 28. So I'll check it first, and then maybe I'll loosen it and see where we're at. And then like I say, at stop should be about 4 degrees. So anyway, I try to shoot this, but it's gonna be really hard to do with 2 hands, holding the camera, turning it, shooting the light. It's just almost impossible. I could try to set it up here, but you're never going to see. I could try to set it up there, but you'll never see the light. You'll never see the number.
I used to hear 'em talking